Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's show, I wanted to talk about the current state of geopolitics and how Trump's predictable unpredictability is good for a rising India. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Firstly, I would like to say that despite the Trump administration's tariffs on India, despite the volatility of the Indian currency, the rupee, this is good for India.
That geopolitical shocks can and must serve as an opportunity.
All the rhetoric coming out of the United States and Donald Trump's back and forth on geopolitical issues are good for India. And the reason I say this is because it creates a sense of uncertainty. It creates a sense of instability within the political realm. And these have far-reaching ramifications, not only for geopolitics, but also for things like global trade, global economies, the defense of sovereign nations. All these aspects become affected by this unpredictability. However, you will always find that out of the chaos comes order. So there are opportunities for countries to benefit amid this rising chaos.
And ladies and gentlemen, this new Europe is already emerging. On Saturday, I was in Asunción, in Paraguay, to sign the EU-Mercosur trade agreement. It was a breakthrough after 25 years of negotiations. And with it, the European Union and Latin America have created the largest free trade zone in the world, a market worth over 20% of global GDP, 31 countries with over 700 million consumers aligned with the Paris Agreement. So this agreement sends a powerful message to the world that we are choosing fair trade over tariffs, partnership over isolation, sustainability over exploitation, and that we are serious about de-risking our economies and diversifying our supply chains.
It's a bit like when currencies become volatile, when stocks become volatile, investors tend to run to the hills looking for a safe bet, namely gold and silver. Now, in geopolitics, in the same way, you find that when there's instability like this in the political arena, then countries want to look for stability, they want to look for security, safety, and they want to look for partners that are going to be solid and reliable. This is where I say that India, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is definitely a safe haven. It's a safe bet because you know that there's no unpredictability there. The reason I say this is because during recent India-Pakistan war, the brief war that occurred, namely Operation Sindoor, in response to the dastardly Pahalgam attacks that occurred, despite Donald Trump's claims that he had ended that war.
Today, the world is richer, safer, and much more peaceful than it was just 1 year ago. We put out all those fires. A lot of people didn't know, including me, that some of those wars were going on. And some of them were going on for, in one case, 32 years, in another case, 35 years, and another one, 37 years. We were very happy to stop the war that had started with India and Pakistan, two nuclear nations.
And India's firm stance that Kashmir is an internal issue and they do not require any outside assistance regarding this, despite Donald Trump's embracing of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Pakistan, knowing full well that Pakistan is a terror hub and a net exporter of terrorism around the world.
Mr. President, the world has faced moments like this before. Today, the world remembers the devastating terrorist attacks of September 11th. That tragic day, like October 7th for Israel, was a day of fire and blood. In the aftermath of 9/11, the countries that uphold freedom, equality, and democracy in this Council stood shoulder to shoulder. 2 weeks later, this Council adopted Resolution 1373. It said plainly, no state may harbor terrorists. No state may fund them. No state may give them safe haven. I urge you all to read this resolution. Any government that does so breaks this Council binding obligations. That principle was clear then. It must be upheld today. And when bin Laden was eliminated in Pakistan, the question asked was not, why target a terrorist on foreign soil? No one asked that question. The question was, why was a terrorist given shelter at all?
Despite Donald Trump's comments about India being a dead economy and heaping tariffs upon tariffs upon tariffs on India, you find that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has remained quiet. He has not taken the opportunity to go out there and become embroiled in a childish tit for tat. He said, she said. You'd get the odd comment initially from, the Foreign Secretary's Office of India saying there were no third-party mediations between India and Pakistan. Pakistan reached out after having been hammered and realized that this was going to end up in something really nasty for them. Donald Trump keeps insisting that he intervened and helped solve it. And, it's been repeated by him and his administration so many times that, I guess the Indians just decided, well, let him get on with it. The truth is what matters, and it doesn't make any difference to the way things played out. What happened, and it was dealt with in an according and befitting manner. And any further episodes will be addressed in the same manner. Now, all the while this has been going on, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and India have quietly and consistently been navigating the geopolitical path and, doing deals with powers both small and large and, according everybody with the respect they deserve and with the respect that they would like. Now, a case in point is the EU-India trade deal, which is set to be finalized next week in New Delhi. This deal is frequently referred to as the mother of all trade deals.
And right after Davos, the next weekend, I will travel to India. There's still work to do, but we are on the cusp of a historic trade agreement. Indeed, some call it the mother of all deals.
It is an agreement that has been nearly 2 decades in the making.
The summit will adopt a new joint EU-India comprehensive strategic agenda, setting our course towards 2030. Leaders will endorse concrete deliverables that move our partnerships from words to actions. 3 stand out. First, we aim to conclude negotiations on the EU-India Free Trade Agreement. This deal will open markets, remove barriers and strengthen critical supply chains in clean technologies, pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. Second, today we agreed to move forward with the signature of a new EU-India security and defence partnership. In areas like maritime security, cybersecurity and counterterrorism.
And it combines the populations of both the EU as well as India, reaching a staggering total of nearly 2 billion people, which accounts for almost 1/4 of the world's population.
One that would create a market of 2 billion people
Now just think about that. Two blocks of this magnitude coming together for purposes of trade, defense, safety and security. It's incredible. The ramifications are staggering. The negotiations are set to be finalized in New Delhi on the 27th of January 2026 and are meant to coincide with India's celebrations of the Republic Day. So what does the deal encompass? The deal is focused on free trade between the two giant blocs and will eliminate tariffs on goods that will be traded between these two giants. It will also provide a secure environment for investors and protection against expropriation. So what are the benefits for India? There are huge tariff relaxations in labor-intensive sectors like apparel, leather, textiles, garments. This would mean that it's a huge advantage because India currently faces up to 10% tariffs on the export of these products into the EU. So you have easier movement of skilled professionals like those involved in the fields of IT and engineering. If you remember the H-1B visa debacle in the United States, one door closes and another door opens. So this H-1B visa debacle in the United States is just one example of how the MAGA doctrine that I believe moved from the sane world to the realm of insanity. And this provides a huge opportunity for India. India will also be able to diversify its trade. You find that they will now be able to move away from heavy reliance on both the American and Chinese markets and look for other pastures within Europe. So this is another example of how Trump's tariff war on India has proved beneficial in the long term because of this trade agreement that has been signed, that will be signed between the EU and India. Now, what are the benefits for the EU? So firstly, you have market access. The EU now has access to India's large growing consumer market, and the EU are also now able to trade their luxury goods on the Indian market. There are two cases in point for this. If you look at India's pivot towards France recently in a deal for fighter jets.
Our next story focuses on India's big push towards self-reliance in combat aviation. According to reports, India is set to build French Rafale fighter jets on home soil. A power move for the Indian Air Force and a giant leap for the Make in India campaign, as domestic firms take center stage in the realm of sky defense. India and France have reportedly agreed on the framework for the procurement of 114 Rafale jets for the Indian Air Force, making it one of the biggest defense deals in Indian history. A memorandum of understanding could reportedly be signed during French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to New Delhi for the India AI Impact Summit. Now that's on February 19th and 20th next month. Well, the price tag is massive, at roughly $36 billion. Well, once the plan is signed by the two countries, 18 Rafales will arrive in ready-to-use condition.
Hence snubbing the United States on their offer of F-35s, which came with a ton of restrictions. You also look at Mercedes-Benz having announced that they will now be producing their flagship Maybach, I think it's the GLE or the GLS, certainly the SUV in India.
This is the Mercedes Maybach GLS, and the original price of this SUV is 3.16 crore rupees, and now it will be available in India for 2.75 crore rupees. Why is that? Why is there a 40 lakh rupees sharp dip in the price of this car? That is because this car will now be domestically manufactured in India, making India only the second market after the United States of America to manufacture and produce this car domestically. And why has Mercedes taken the decision of domestically manufacturing and producing this car? Let's hear from the man himself, Santosh Iyer, MD and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India.
You know, 2025 was one of the best year for us again in terms of revenue, also top-end vehicle sales, and I'm proud to say that Maybach in specific climbed to the top. India is the top 5 Maybach markets in the world.
India accounts for the 5th largest purchaser of these vehicles. So according to Mercedes-Benz, it was a no-brainer to have it built in India and then shipped out from there, because it's a saving not only for Mercedes-Benz but also for the Indian consumer. And I suspect it will also be a saving for consumers worldwide. You also have that there would be a reduction on import duties on luxury European goods into India. For example, those like champagnes, wines, cheeses, chocolates. Europe also gets to strengthen their supply chain and diversify away from reliance on the Chinese for a lot of their manufacturing. One notable challenge to this trade deal is the Indians' red line on dairy and agriculture. However, the comments coming out of both camps seem to be positive with regard to this issue. I know that, for example, with the Mercosur deal between the South American bloc and the EU, the EU Parliament has referred the deal to the courts for review. That deal is primarily where EU farmers and those in the agricultural sector, the dairy sector, are concerned about their livelihoods moving forward, because an opening, according to them, to the South American market regarding primarily agriculture and dairy would really affect their livelihood. So I know it's something that the EU are seriously taking into account. The deal between India and the European Union is not only trade focused. There is a geopolitical and strategic framework attached to it as well. Given the Trump administration's protectionist policies being implemented in the United States, both India and the EU are looking to diversify their reliance on US and Chinese supply chains. In the arena of security and defense as well, both the EU and India are going to be cooperating a lot closer on strategic defense. You find that the Indians are going to be involved a lot more in military cooperation and drills and defense programs. A specific agreement is being negotiated to protect regional products like the Darjeeling tea coming out of India or European fine wines and cheeses, that their names are legally protected in both markets. And this would prevent copycat products emerging using those names. For example, you have in Europe Parmesan cheese that can only come from that certain region in Italy, as well as champagne that can only come from that certain region in France. So a protectionist clause is being put in to this agreement for those purposes. I think you can see that this is an all-encompassing, really comprehensive deal that not only involves trade, but also defense cooperation. There will probably be greater intelligence sharing as well. And the ramifications for this are staggering for both blocs. I think closer cooperation will result in not only better trade, but better defense, better security sharing, which would then protect both these blocs. So, coming back to the reason for this video, once again, the policies being pushed by the current United States administration, whilst in the short term may seem like wins, I have to say the long-term ramifications actually go to benefit those on the receiving end. Thank you for joining me on this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, as it helps us with the algorithm and it helps our channel to grow.